Once upon a time, in a small, peaceful village surrounded by green fields and winding rivers, there were two boys who were as close as brothers. Their names were Ravi and Kiran. They had grown up together, splashing in the village pond, climbing the oldest trees, and racing each other along the dusty paths that crisscrossed the village. Ravi was known as the good-natured one. He was cheerful, always willing to lend a helping hand, and had a way of seeing the best in everyone. People would often find him helping the elderly with their chores, playing with the younger children, or assisting the farmers in the fields. Ravi had a laugh that was as warm as sunshine, and he could make even the grumpiest villager smile. Kiran, on the other hand, was a bit of a mischief maker. He had a playful glint in his eye, and his ideas often got him, and sometimes Ravi, into trouble. Though he wasn't a bad person at heart, Kiran had a way of stirring things up and bending the rules to his liking. The village folks loved him too, but they'd often shake their heads with a smile, saying, "That Kiran, what's he up to now?" One bright morning, Ravi and Kiran were sitting under a large banyan tree, munching on fresh mangoes they had picked from the orchard. "Ravi," Kiran said, his eyes twinkling with excitement, "have you ever heard of the mango grove by the river?" Ravi nodded. "Of course. Old man Joshi owns it. He's got the juiciest mangoes in the whole village." "Well," Kiran said with a grin, "I've got a plan. Let's sneak into his grove tonight and pick the biggest, ripest mangoes we can find. Just imagine the feast." Ravi chuckled but shook his head. "Kiran, you know that's not right. If we ask Mr. Joshi politely, I'm sure he'll let us have some mangoes." Kiran rolled his eyes. "Where's the adventure in that? Don't you want to have a little fun?" Ravi smiled and shrugged. "I think fun is even better when everyone's happy in the end, don't you?" Kiran groaned but couldn't argue with Ravi's logic. So, that afternoon, the two of them marched over to Old Man Joshi's house, where he was sitting on his porch, whittling a piece of wood. "Hello, Mr. Joshi," Ravi called, giving him a respectful bow. "We were wondering if you might let us pick some mangoes from your grove." The old man looked up, his eyes twinkling with kindness. "Well, boys, you didn't have to ask. You're welcome to pick as many mangoes as you like. Just make sure you leave some for the others." Ravi smiled and thanked him warmly, while Kiran grumbled, trying to hide his disappointment. That evening, they went to the grove. But instead of sneaking around, they enjoyed themselves openly, picking the juiciest mangoes with Mr. Joshi's blessing. As they sat under the starlit sky, sharing their mangoes and laughing, Kiran turned to Ravi and said, "You know, maybe you're right. It's nice when everyone can be happy together." Ravi laughed, tossing a mango pit into the grass. "See? Good things happen when we do the right thing." From that day on, Kiran still came up with his mischievous plans, but he was a little more thoughtful, often seeking ways to include others and make sure everyone enjoyed the fun. And thanks to Ravi's steady friendship, Kiran slowly began to understand that there's more joy in sharing happiness than in grabbing it just for himself. The two friends grew up together, and while Kiran never entirely lost his playful side, he learned to balance it with a bit of Ravi's kindness. Their friendship became the talk of the village, a perfect example of how a good friend can bring out the best in you, no matter who you are.